a lot of things going on, obviously around planning, organisational change. So to get a regional perspective on things, we asked Jason, who's the head of finance brackets assurance for NHS England, to come and provide us with a little bit of an update. So with that, over to you, Jason. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Thank you all for having me along. I've got some slides that I'm struggling to get onto my screen at the moment, but I will walk you through those in a moment. For anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Jason Donovan. I worked in the regional team. Daryl used to be my boss. Worked in the regional team for about 4 years now. Before that, I was primarily with providers for about 20 years. So I've done a little bit with commissioners, a little bit of providers, but sort of love the NHS. Landed in the NHS by happenstance. Just they're the only people recruiting, but sort of one of the best things that happened to me. Let me just try and share this screen again. Sorry, bear with me. I don't know why this is not.
Yeah, Jason, if you're having problems, if you want to forward your slides to me, I can.
Yeah, thank you. Let me do that, Jane. Sorry, and I will. I'll do it. Apologies, everyone. I've not had this before. Right, so I've just sent that to you. I'll talk to it while I'm waiting for it to come up. Jane, let me know if that doesn't come through. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the revenue position for the organisation. So across the east of England, in the first 2 months of the year, we are £32.6 million off plan. That's a really shocking number. We're really worried about that. For anyone who's been in the NHS for any period of time at all, usually month there is no month one. You know, don't really do it properly. Month two, people typically have been reporting to plan. You know, not exactly, they don't balance all of the numbers exactly to plan, but the position is, you know, that dire that all of the systems and all the organisations are worried enough that they're flagging this early in the year, they're off plan. To put it in context, there's £60 million, £62 million overall deficit, of which only 29 was planned. So there's still a bit of a hockey stick in terms of delivering the efficiency plans throughout the year. So in one sense, the report that I'm sharing with people, not sharing with people at the moment, is very wrong. What we're trying to do is we do 3 real things with that position. The first is it real? Sometimes the region can wonder, is everyone being super prudent in what they're sharing out with everybody? Are people assuming that, well, this will be the worst case, that will be the worst case? We don't think that's the position at the moment. Thank you, Jane. If you see the slides in front of you, so that's a split of the 6 systems, the breakdown of the £33 million I was talking about, and you know, not to point out the blindly obvious, the region are very worried about that number. In a straight line, adds up to nearly £200 million. You'll also see, and just probably some of you are aware of this, you can't actually change your forecast outturn until the region let you. So we take no comfort at all in that the forecast outturn is still 0. Doesn't make any difference to our reckoning on that. We are very worried about this, and the national team are worried too. The east of England is about 1/10 of the country. It's pretty rule of thumb, the 10th, in lots of ways it works out well. And nationally, that's the same position. It's not the same in a regular way. It's not exactly that degree of overspend across each of the systems. Is differential, but broadly, we're about 1/10 of the problem nationally, and that's the scale. Jen, could you move us on to the next slide? So what do? So as I described, the first thing we do, is it real? Is it a median case? Has everyone said, well, if everything goes possibly wrong that possibly could, is that how we've got to this number? It doesn't feel to be the case. It feels broadly genuine. There's a couple of specific areas that we're going to look into with each of the 6 systems. One is industrial action. How are people accounting for industrial action? And at the at the deputies meeting we had earlier this week, there was some quite starkly different numbers presented across the different systems in terms of how much it's costing the system. So the logical argument goes something along the lines of industrial action has happened. I need to backfill the staff who are on strike in order to deliver my activity. There's a premium cost to that. Probably agency consultancy costs are higher, or if you're having to have more senior staff fill in for the junior doctors, there's a premium expense to that, which organisations are in some places experience a lot of. The challenge we've got nationally is at the same time as saying, well, we're experiencing all these extra costs, the activity's gone down as well. So the national team want to know, well, how either you're backfilling these staff and it's costing you a lot of extra money to do so, in which case you should be able to deliver the activity right, or you're not backfilling the staff, in which case you're saving the costs of people's pay who are on strike, and that makes sense, then you won't deliver. At the moment, the national team are hearing the message, yes, I am backfilling, it's costing me a lot more money, and no, I'm not delivering activity. So we're trying to get to the heart of that. Why is it differential, and what's the exact position? The other key driver that's causing the variance so far is the non-delivery of efficiencies. So the plans only went in 6 weeks ago. I think it was probably a known fact that not all of the efficiency plans were fully evolved, fully developed, but the scale of fall off in the first couple of months has been much more material than we were hoping. So, what do we need to do? So the green box, what remedial actions are taken? Ensure everyone knows that the scale of the problem, that we're working collaboratively to try and fix what it is, understand what we can do, what's driving it, what can we do about whatever's driving it, what other opportunities exist, and what can we do. And I've just stuck it in the little black box in the meeting. It's slightly unprecedented to do it so early in the year. We're going to have 6 system meetings. If you look back on the first slide, and we'll send them out, SNE are not particularly off plan. Suffolk and North East Essex are 0.3, really, in the range. But for the other 5, we're definitely going to have meetings next week or early the following week to talk through with the system leaders what's happening. Because to tell you probably what you already know, if you get another couple of months into the year at this trend, you may have already lost the year. The recovery trajectory gets harder and harder every month that this level of overspend continues. So we're looking to take steps and actions as soon as possible. Jane, if you could move us on to the 3rd slide, so I'll stop talking about revenue because capital is a slightly different position. So revenue, it's difficult. We're going to have meetings straight away. The capital position, and there's a few really good things to point out for this. This is the first time, this is the BI tool that's been shared. Systems are going to get their own version. This is the first time I've seen system capital, which is the top box, the bit given out to each of the systems, primarily paid for by your depreciation, the money the system's in, and the national capital schemes all in one place. That's a real step change for me, because I would have been saying things recently like it's really difficult to understand or follow capital and see it all in one place. So this BI tool, which is fantastic, is really, really helpful. You can see what is being spent by scheme, what is being spent by system, and you can drill into it. What's being spent by scheme, by system. And I think that's been a real challenge for us, trying to get the handle on capital. Capital spend in the region last year was really good. It landed almost on the nose, on the money. So it was a very good thing. But it's quite a worrying area, capital. It's very volatile in the spending levels. But it all works. The spend is massively, massively ramped up in the last few months to land on exactly the spend levels. The region spent exactly the right level of money, but only because there was contra, some were up, some were down in month 12. So it's a sort of an area we worry about, but it landed in a good spot. So in month 2, capital spend's not bad. And we tend not to hold it to the same exact standards that we do with revenue. Daryl?
Yeah, I was just interested, Jason, why the 2 boxes don't equal each other.
But they're showing different amounts. So one's the national programs. The top box is just the system capital, the PDC as we'd have called it.
So that begs my next question. I would have thought that, are we talking millions, not thousands? Because the number looks quite small.
Yeah, no, sorry, we are. Yeah, we're talking. Yeah, I think we're talking 47,000 thousands.
Yeah.
So 47 million.
Yeah. So the
But yeah,
so the heading needs nuancing to reflect millions. Yeah.
I think yeah, it's a national data set, but I think you're right.
Right.
Probably just writing the word millions in there would make sense, and stick a dot in there as well.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, very big money. Probably should have started with some of the basics, like what capital is. Capital is costs more than £5,000, lasts more than a year. Typically land, buildings and equipment. Land doesn't tend to, we don't buy a lot of land in here. It's just we do own some of it for sure. But typically upgrades on buildings and equipment. But one of the things that I've put on all of these slides is my email. So if anyone wants to know more about anything, I'm aware we're going whistle stop speed here. If you want to know anything about the stuff we're going through, what is it, what are you doing, and if you want a bit more detail, please just drop me an email. You know, you can contact me via LinkedIn, etc. But the easiest way to get hold of someone else who works in the NHS is just to email each other. So for me, very happy to take emails if there's queries after. And Jane, if you could move us on to the last slide, please. So just a few things I wanted to pick up that are also focusing the regional mind at the moment. The year end, there's ongoing concerns around completing the audits for the 30th of June deadline. That's happening in lots of places. Anyone who's got BDO as an auditor is worried. There's other organisations who are struggling as well. It's primarily to do with capacity. And as you'll have seen, if you read the press, audit firms, some of them have taken a bit of a shoeing for companies going bust, and the audit wasn't thorough enough. You know, just the audit not carried out. So in consequence of that, a natural consequence to that, is that the audits are really, really thorough now. They're asking lots and lots of questions. In order to ask them more questions, though, they haven't got any more resource. They haven't got any extra staff. It takes a little while to train audit firms in place. So it's quite possible that a number of organisations will miss the 30th of June deadline. Our job is to keep the national team informed and to make sure that we're doing everything we can to hit that deadline. But the audit firms don't overly worry about our deadlines at times. We don't have huge leverage to encourage them to go faster. There's one other specific issue there around cloud-based assets, and whether if something's in the cloud, it should really count as capital. To point out the obvious, if something flips from capital to revenue as a result of that decision, it will materially move the year-end positions. But those discussions are ongoing. Just in terms of housekeeping for the region, like the ICB's, region's going through a consultation at the moment. So, and that's a real haircut. So bullet point 1, there's a real reduction in the number of posts that will be in the regional team starting 1st of April next year. So that's a process that we're going through, and that's creating day-to-day challenges. We're trying to get the day job done. We've got recruitment freezes in place. You know, as happens with all consultations, some staff are jumping because they don't like the uncertainty, or there's another opportunity for them, and we can only recruit on fixed-term basis. As the fixed-term level becomes shorter and shorter, it becomes increasingly unattractive. So we're sort of bugging that. We're not special. No one from the regional team doesn't think we shouldn't go through a consultation. We're very quick to ask that first slide, £33 million off. What are you doing about it? What are you doing about it? How are you being more efficient? We should have that mirror pointing at us, and we're just going through that at the moment. Third bullet point, finance is also jointly responsible for operational capacity. Sometimes we can get fixated on our own little bubble. I've got to break even. It probably is my day job. My first day job is to try and live within resources, but I've got other day jobs too, and one of them is to try and deliver operational services so that we treat patients, because that's the whole point of the NHS. I think important to remember that we try and have joined up conversations. It doesn't always work, but trying not to have a slash and burn approach to trying to break even the position, not just simply ramping everything down. We need to do it in a measured way, because our job is to deliver activity too. And the final one for me before I'll take questions is planning feedback for last year. Lots and lots of feedback being gathered, and we're feeding back to a national event on the 29th of June, so next Thursday. How was planning for you? Some bits were good, still some significant challenges, and we're probably going to start planning for 24-25 now. And that was some feedback we had from our deputies group, which deputy groups of deputy directors of finance across the region had a meeting face to face on Monday. Get on with it. You know, we always tend to rush right at the end. Are the things that we could start doing now? And we're really looking at how to make that happen. So thank you very much for sharing my slides, Jane. If you take those down, I'm very happy to take questions with the little bit of time I've left you.
Thanks, Jason. That was really interesting. Do we have any sort of immediate questions? You can either put your hand up or post the chat. And obviously, a lot of that was quite familiar to me, Jason, having formerly worked in the region myself.
Yeah.
But I guess my question would be: has a lot changed in NHS England in the 3 years that I've not been there?
I think it has. I think we relaxed financially during COVID, no doubt. The amount of rigor and grit we had in the system was relaxed because the system, that the process nationally that was in place, whereby, COVID funding was backfilled. So if you overspent, and you could evidence this was driven by COVID, the amount of money, was made right for you, all systems got made right. I think we're just getting back to exactly where we've always been historically. So we've changed in the sense that we've gone back to where we were. Money's incredibly tight. We're trying to juggle lots of very challenging situations at the same time. And we are putting that rigor right back into the systems. The one thing that's different is we're doing it in month 2. I think it used to be a month 4, month 5 job with 2 or 3 organizations. Now it feels like a month 2 job with half to 3/4. So it's very difficult. I think we are better at doing system first, and we used to go organization first. We're better at that, but still not perfect.
Thanks, Jason. Jane.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. That's really helpful. I think you probably said a little bit about this, but I'm quite interested in what the national position looks like. Are we a real outlier in the east of England, or is this?
No. Yes, so we're not allowed to share the overall national numbers, but what I can do is tell you that we're about a 10th, and we're about 33 million over. Well, we're not about. We are 32.6. So that 10th, don't take it to the bank on the exact numbers, but we're broadly in line with the overall national picture. But there isn't one picture nationally. We're better than some, and some aren't struggling at all. And so we're really trying to find out, well, why? What's the East? Everyone's different, but everyone's sort of the same. Everyone's got inflation pressures. Everyone's had industrial action. What is it that we're doing, and what can we learn from those that are better? It's I think there's 6 questions going out to 14 different systems this week. 6 questions from the national team asking, what's your run rate done since last year? What part of your plan exactly is not delivering? And the 6th question is, what are you doing about it? And again, that those minds are focused at a very, very senior level so early in the year is new to me. I don't know if Daryl, Jane, you have a different perspective on recent decades.
Yeah, you're right. It is new. Right. If we can just take the question from Simon, and then we'll need to move on.
Yeah, thank you. It's a very quick one. Back to you, Jason. Obviously, you've talked a little bit about national position, and obviously within all of the systems, we've all highlighted very early on the levels of risk in all of them. What is the actual end game on this? Because a lot of the systems are not going to be able to recover their positions, and it's still going to be, you knew this at the start, at centre, that there was massive risk in the system. What is the natural end game when systems can't literally do anything else to save money? Or is it literally going to be, you just have to get there with however you get there, and you then start crippling services just to get back to a financial parity? What's the kind of national view on that, other than you just have to break even?
So I think you're right, Simon. I'm not going to be able to answer that in the sense
no, absolutely
definitive. But let me give you the overview. We're trying to have joined up conversations so that you don't hear from ops saying must do more, from finance saying must save money, so that you hear it in one place. I think there is a nuance in the sense of we can evidence where we're doing everything possible, delivering the current service, where it could be more efficient and effective. And that's a reasonable question all the time. So what can we do that just takes costs out, that doesn't impact services? Ultimately, I guess there needs to be a mature, reasoned, and involved conversation saying, well, what are the priorities? What is the balance between delivering break even at one extreme versus, and the slash and burn I talked about, which we're not going to do, versus, well, are there certain services that could be started later? Are there things that we were going to place? Should any new developments be put on hold for a little while? Should there be a trade-off between that? Is there more that can be done jointly? And those sorts of questions. It's not. I think the NHS is pretty good at not making dramatic movements, knee-jerk reactions to something. But Minds will be absolutely focused on that. And I'm aware of some systems in the East where they are looking at services. If we had to make a rationing decision, which we do all the time, frankly, we ration all the time. The plans we put in include rationing. If we had to ration further, where might we take that? So I'm hopefully, I don't want that to be a politician's answer, Simon. I don't think we have.
I don't have the answers.
much
It's almost
clarity.
like, is it literally, does it go back to there just isn't enough funding in Department of Health for this? And is anyone actually prepared to, at the top level, with all the pay settlements that have been agreed, based upon delivering efficiencies, is it a political problem more than a delivery offering?
Jason, shall I say something, given that I no longer work for NHS England? So clearly, the NHS England will be sending in support to help challenge systems, and there will always be a strong push to either come up with new efficiencies, new collaborative ways of doing more with the same amount of resource. But ultimately, there will be high-level conversations between the Treasury, between NHS England and the Department of Health around the risk. And, politically, do they want to break the vote and spend more money than actually has been sort of gifted through Parliament? So ultimately, that discussion may well happen. We don't know what the outcome is. It depends how those discussions go, and whether people are prepared to let the NHS break the vote, which I think is unprecedented. I think we've come close a few times, but don't believe we've ever done it. Right, okay, so I think we better move on.